In this video, I'll show you exactly how to start growing food at home. You don't need the experience and you don't need all that land they talk about. And right now, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, I fully understand. And by the end of this video, you will feel confident planning your first edible garden. Starting a food garden for the first time might seem overwhelming, and I do understand because I was there once upon a time. So I just wanted to share a little bit of my story before we get going on how and where and what you can grow in a small little space. And if you don't have a garden, don't worry, I've got you sorted, because there is a way to grow even if you don't have a garden. So my story actually started with when I bought this house. I got all this land, but before that I actually was renting, and I was renting in a place that the garden actually had such really bad soil. The soil was so sandy that even the water was running over it. It was very, very fine sand. Also, we couldn't just do what we wanted in that small garden. And then we had a little patio by the front door. And that is where I started. When we bought the tomatoes, I saved tomato seeds. And that is how I got tomato seeds and grew that. Green peppers, got green peppers, and I got the seeds from that. And that is how I first got started, was actually using the seeds from bought store items. And I grew my own tomatoes in pots, green peppers, and then I went and bought some spinach and some herbs. And these seeds were amazing. They germinated very nicely, and that is how I got started with gardening. I remember my father used to grow a whole bunch of stuff like tomatoes, spinach, corn, and I remember the butter squash and all that. And I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. But I never knew that one day I would be doing exactly the same thing. So that is how I started, in pots, and it's very possible if you don't have the garden. Fast forward to 2021, that is when my journey started. Homesteading wasn't even in my mind. It was just getting started in the ground, because it was a property that had land, small land, and it was my first house. So we went and we grew a few flowers and seeds in the ground, and they weren't thriving, and we found out that we had really, really, really bad clay soil here throughout the whole garden. And then I thought, okay, I can't grow trees in the ground, because we had gone and lost a tamarilla and a few other plants that we went and planted in the ground. So these trees were a goner. And that's where raised beds started coming into the picture. And I started with one raised bed, two, and then the second one I got was a double stacked raised bed. And to this day, fast forward to 2026, I have nearly 17 raised beds in my back garden, growing food, and food that I love to eat and my family loves to eat, and the animals can also utilize. So it's a win-win for everyone. So stay to the end of the video, because I'm going to tell you how you can grow even if you don't have a garden and you don't even have a patio. So the first step isn't seeds, it's actually confidence. So try and start small and expect to make mistakes, because you will learn as you grow. My motto is, let's learn together as we grow together. So that first time I started planting things in raised beds, I didn't actually think about homesteading at all. It was just me grabbing some seeds, putting them in a raised bed, and just starting to see if I can just grow food, because it was so rewarding. And I didn't even post anything on Instagram and that, and YouTube wasn't even a thing for me. So I don't really have any documentation of me really starting the homestead, and not knowing that that journey was just the start of what I have right here. And the common mistakes that beginners make is that they start too big and they expect too much. And that's something I had to learn the hard way. So in my first year, obviously, I told you that we learned that we have really, really bad clay soil. And so I went and lost a few fruit trees and all the crops that were in the ground. And then when I started with raised beds, that was fantastic. I then learned about hojos and insects and bugs, and I didn't know how to control it. And that was overwhelming for me as well. So there will be hiccups along the road when you start homesteading, and that is why I like to teach people how to get started. And my big thing is start small. Start with one raised bed or maybe a handful of pots. I speak about tomatoes and lettuce, kale and spinach, cucumbers, beetroots and carrots. And these are all stable crops and very easy beginner crops to actually get going. And then also include some flowers around your garden because you need them. You need pollinators to come in and do their thing. And while I was busy learning all that in the first 3 years of homesteading, I also learned a lot from other people that were on YouTube. And that is where my journey started. Nearly a year and a half now on YouTube. And I have learned a lot. And I have also learned that there's a lot of misleading information out there as well. And that is where these small little channels like mine like to come in and just show you our failures and our successes, what to do and what not to do. And trust me, I make so much mistakes, but this is possible and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's rewarding, and it's also something that helps me mentally, because after a hard week of work, this is where I come to just relax and get away from it all. In today's video, we are going to do a big harvest. There's quite a lot of cucumbers and there is some stuff that need attention to. And so you're coming along with me while we go and harvest. And I can show you exactly what you could be growing if you started today. Okay, so here's a nice beginner's crop to start, and you get 3 crops out of this. So we had corn here, and unfortunately the corn did not make it after the hailstorm. It had gone and destroyed it and dried out. So it was still the beginning of January, and January in South Africa is the last season to grow corn. Stuck quite a few of the corn, like the whole packet, in this bed, and you can see how beautiful they're starting to grow. That's 2 weeks of growth. They'll just start thickening up and growing. So when your corn is at a certain height, the corn will act as the support, the pole, when your beans are in to grow on them. So then you will start your beans very close to the corn. So when the beans are at a certain height, they start actually using the corn to grow up. And what the beans do is that they are really great fertilizers. So they are great in nitrogen. So they got all that nutrients. So the beans go in, and then a week or 2 later, you'll start growing squash in between. And what the squash does is that it is a natural mulch. It will basically, with all its big leaves, and because it grows in a vine and it can grow on the ground or along the ground, it is a natural mulch. It will basically cover your ground so that not too much sun dries out your soil. So that is called the 3-sister method, and it is great for beginners to start with. Now you might say, Sam, I eat corn and I eat beans. That's fantastic, because that is like a staple crop in homes. But I do not eat squash. Well, welcome to my world. My family doesn't really eat squash, so you can go and replace squash with anything that is a vining. So things like melons, like cantaloupes and watermelons, that will do fantastic in these raised beds underneath your corn and beans. So that is what we'll be doing, is doing things like that. But the only thing is that obviously I've gone and started the corn late. It's January, it is the last month of growing corn, and the window for watermelons is basically should be now. And if I swing here, you'll see this is the only surviving watermelon that we've got. All the other ones down, and you can see how small this is still. And what we want to do is we want that to be that size when the beans are already creeping up the corn. In this case, we won't be doing that. So what I'm going to do is that I've covered the ground with things like bok choy or lettuce, and that should be fun. They all work together. And right now I have got the odd tomato and kale in this bed, but that's fine because we didn't know that this bed was going to get destroyed, and we didn't know about the hailstorm. But that is an awesome, perfect example of what you can do if you're not sure what to grow and you eat corn, beans, squash, or even watermelons. There's some nice easy crops to grow is tomatoes. Look at this tomato plant. It's literally ran out of space and has gone that way. That's quite cool. So today's mission is to kind of like clean up the bottoms of the tomato plants, trelly them up because they've fallen, sort out the grapevine that's growing this side, so I'll just loop it so it grows that way. And you can see the grapevine slowly coming back after these winds, and the hailstones have ripped them all off. So that is awesome news. So tomatoes, definitely an easy beginner crop to grow. So I do suggest growing that. Another one is cucumbers. Look at how awesome these cucumbers are. And we'll be harvesting all the cucumbers today that is about that size, or no, I'm going to let that one grow a little bit bigger, but these are perfect sizes. So I've got two in here. One's called the Ashley, and the other one's called the Burpless. You can actually see the difference of them. So this is a Burpless, and you can see that it's a little bit lighter and the skin is softer. Where if you come to the Ashley, the skin is much darker and thicker. And I also found the seeds and inside is much bigger than the Burpless. But either way, they're very nice. And if I have to choose one, the Burpless would absolutely win. And these are nice. If you go and harvest them while they're this small, you can actually make little gherkins. They're really good for pickling also. Cucumbers, awesome crop to start growing as a beginner. And you want to avoid growing things underneath like cabbage, kohlrabi, broccoli, because they do not grow together. And what have we got here? We have a kohlrabi. So what happened was I put a whole bunch of kohlrabi in here and then decided to just throw a whole bunch of seeds in my raised bed. And I didn't think that so many cucumbers would germinate, and they all actually germinated. And I had this bed full of kohlrabi. They were still small. So I took all of them out and I put them in another raised bed because this bed was too shady for the kohlrabis anyways. And I had to leave this one in because it was already big and established. So that's the only kohlrabi growing in this bed. But what to grow with cucumbers is things like tomatoes, and then you can throw a whole bunch of herbs at the bottom and basil and things like lettuce. So nice cover crops for that. So you have cover crops that at the bottom, and then you've got the tomatoes and the cucumbers that trelly up. So I've made a whole bunch of videos explaining that, so you can go and take a look at my other videos explaining that. But tomato, cucumbers, and obviously now I'm going to talk about lettuce. Awesome beginner crops. We'll swing over to this bed. And what I've gone and done is thrown a whole bunch of seeds in this bed of lettuce. And lettuce is really good cover crop as well as a beginner crop. These two are older versions of lettuce, and then that one and this one is younger ones. So succession planting is also very important, because you don't want things to happen like this, where your lettuce are now bolting and not going to produce anymore because it's over. So things like that you just throw out, or you could cut it by the stem and leave the roots in. But yeah, it's basically over, so I'll leave that there. And then I've got another one here. I've gone and thrown a whole bunch of lettuce seeds in this bed too. So lettuce, definitely a good beginner's crop to start with. Another one, spinach. So you get so many different types of spinach, so you'll just have to grow what you like. But I like this chard. It's really nice. It's something that grows very well. You just cut it over here, you basically will start getting new leaves in the middle, and you just start taking all the outer leaves out, and it will just keep on giving, and they can last for years actually. But this is one of the spinaches I like to grow. The animals also love it. You can put it in stir fries and that. You can see I got some more spinach here, and I think it's the same variety, but in between I've got other spinach that is growing. So there's a different variety there. It's very small. Here's another one there, and I actually took out all the big spinaches because they weren't doing very well, so started again with small spinach. So spinach is awesome to actually do. And over here I've also got another cucumber. I think I've got 3 cucumbers here growing on this little trellis here. And then in this bed I do have a whole bunch of spinach and kohlrabies. I think at the back there we've got like dill or chive, and I think that might be an onion. I think we have an onion. So I did grow onions right in the beginning and nothing happened, so I didn't think anything of it. So that is something you can grow. Over here I do have beans. We're going to harvest all these dried beans. Look how gorgeous they are, because what's happening is they're starting to flower again and they're producing new beans. So I've got to take these off. The more you harvest, the more it will produce. So that is the plan. Look at these beautiful squash. These are yellow scallop. They're gorgeous. They're ready to harvest. So yep, let's do this. It's all the molly beans, and inside there will be all these little dried beans. We'll let it cure for another week or 2 outside on a rack or somewhere, and once it's all done, put it in a pillowcase, whack it, and all these beans will come out of them, and we can then jar them up. So we do have some more molly beans that will be pushed out, more flowers growing, so that's exciting. Okay, get on to the next thing. What I want to harvest is cucumbers, some yellow scallops. There's the odd tomato that's ripe. Yeah, we'll just take a walk around and let's do this. And do me a favor, if you're enjoying this and that this video has been helpful in you trying to get your first garden up and going, hit that like button. It really supports my channel. This is the next thing we are going to harvest. Been very curious about this potato. So when was it? 2-3 weeks ago? Was it 3 weeks ago? Nearly a month ago actually, yeah. So we went and harvested the other 2 bags of potatoes. I knew they were the Abbey potatoes and the round purple potatoes, and I've been eating them. They're nice and creamy, they're awesome. So yeah, that was nice. Now this one was still green. It has now gone brown and it has dried up. So we're going to harvest that one today. I don't know what I actually planted in here. Maybe it's normal potatoes, but it's time to harvest it. So let's see what we've got here. It looks so better on other channels where they just rip it up and there's like potatoes at the bottom. That was an anticlimax, but yeah, I wasn't actually expecting anything. What did come out was a worm and a very small potato with a whole bunch of worms on it. It's just... okay, I do see something, so... okay, so it looks like I went and grew normal potatoes. Okay. Quite nice. We actually got a potato and loads of worms. It's the good worms, I think. Yeah, but look at this. Okay, we'll carry on. I'll take that. Secret potatoes. You guys know that I grow mostly veggies and herbs and fruit trees in pots. The fruit trees in pots is my big niche, and then just growing the food in the garden is just something that I love doing. That you grow something, you harvest, you basically reap the rewards. It's so rewarding, but also I get to teach everyone how I do it. You'll find your own feet and be able to do it your way. But the thing is, when it comes to things like potatoes, this is probably my 2nd time growing it. First time was a disaster. The 2nd time it's kind of like a disaster as well, but I've got more than I did last season. And so I'm just learning. And I just stuck some potatoes that had already had eyes on them. I think 3 potatoes that I put in there. Or was it 1? It could be 1 actually, yeah. And from that, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, call it 10 potatoes, ranging from a nice big one to going to very small ones. But to me, that's a win because I'm just one step closer and getting better at it. Look at that. Not bad. Come on, that's going to feed me for 2 days. Put this in one big pot. That's 1 meal for a whole family. So that's a win for me. So besides growing these veggies in your back garden, we have trees. Loads and loads and loads of fruit trees that we grow in a small space. And we literally grow them all in pots. So I've created this beautiful oasis where I'm able to walk in my garden, pick some fruit off, like I just did with the Cape gooseberry, but also apples, tamarillas, figs. I'll just show you, was able to get probably 2 meals out of this. So the smaller ones like this, what I'll do is that I will just boil them, take it for lunch. The bigger ones I can roast them and actually make supper out of that. So it's provided something for us. And that other harvest with the potatoes, the Abbey potatoes, I am nearly done with that. I've been basically boiling them and adding it to my lunches, which has been really, really nice. So I would say it's been quite a nice harvest. Small, but that's fine. We'll get challenges. After 5 years of homesteading, I'm still getting challenges. My challenge this year was snails, birds, hail, rain. It's just part of life, of nature. It's going to happen. So that is okay with me. And I'm pretty much happy with what I've got. So the last harvest is all of this. These are my beans, and I've got 2 varieties here. I've got these ones, and if you open them, I think I've opened 2 already to show, but they've got like black stripes in it, hence the name zebra molly beans. They look like little zebra beans, and I will let that sit outside for another week or 2 to cure, and then I will put it in a pillowcase, whack it. He loosens up all the beans inside instead of me having to open it and get the beans out that way, which is very therapeutic, but just to speed up time, I will do it that way. And then I've also got these ones, and these ones are from the bush beans, and I'll do exactly the same. So I think that will be 1 meal on its own. So I'll make something small with that. But with the zebra molly beans, these were the very first beans I grew at the homestead, and the very first bean that I experimented with cooking, and I made this beautiful beef bean stew, which my family loved. And so I'm going to be doing it again. The weather's a little bit too hot, but by the time I'm able to use these beans, can't wait to wrap it up in the garden. I still need to trellis some of the tomatoes that are looking really, really sad. So that has to be done today. And then I'm putting up the pool and jumping into it. Definitely cooling down. February and March is going to be very hot, and then it'll start cooling down. And before you know it, winter, the still months, will be planning for the next season ahead. So you might be asking, Sam, what kind of fruit trees can I grow then in a small area? Well, go watch my videos. I tell you all about it. But while we're here, we have a whole bunch of lemon trees that I've either grown from seeds or just bought. I have a nectarine, I have a plum, I have a apricot, I got a cherry, liquat. We've got custard apple trees. We've got that one, which is tamarillas, figs, apples, and there's so many other fruits that you can actually grow in pots. So that is what you can grow, guys. So no excuses. Make it happen. And it is so rewarding. It is possible. And then I say to you guys, stay to the end, because if you don't have a garden and you don't have a patio and you only have a balcony or a windowsill, that is perfect. So my sister has a balcony, and I actually grew a lemon tree on her balcony with some plants and flowers, and it is absolutely doable. She also has a whole bunch of roses, but it's winter there, so it is all gone to sleep in that. But it is possible to line your balcony with beautiful pots with beautiful dwarf varieties of fruit trees or even some crops. And if you've only got a windowsill, then start with something small like your herbs. Herbs is really, really great to grow on a ledge. So I do that in my kitchen so that I have some herbs close by, and that really works really well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that it was helpful. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any more of our content that we make here. Take a look at this next video and I'll see you there.